Hello guys. How's everyone? I believe we are all doing fine today. I'm going to talk about the African culture or our African culture. And today I'm coming in very short moment to speak about something. In case I do not finish it today, I will try to come back live again to finish it maybe in the coming days. So first of all, my name is Paul Zongo. I'm a teacher in profession and journalist in profession, and I have experience when it comes to diplomacy, and in all these three categories, the teacher and journalists and also diplomacy, it's all works together to come into the topic that I'm going to talk about. So when we talk about a diplomat, let me try to define a bit about a diplomat before I define the culture or our African culture. A diplomat can also play this role like of reminding the community in how they can protect their culture. And that is for all the diplomats around the world. When you see you have an ambassador or you have an embassy somewhere, and people who are working in that embassy, including the ambassador, they have a big role to play in the community or the society where they are in that country, to keep on reminding those people about their culture. For example, if you are a Congolese, there is a culture of a Congolese all over where you go. In your country, there is a culture that Congolese live, and when you go out of the country to another country, for example Europe or any other country in Asia, that same culture, it has to be in us. So the role of a diplomat or ambassador or an embassy in that country, their roles is to remind those Congolese, to remind those Africans about their culture. That's why you see they organize a culture day for them. You see an embassy or the people who are in charge, they will organize an event and they call it a culture day. This is just to remind Africans, this is our culture, this is our dressing code, this is the way we live, this is the way we eat. So this is all about African culture. So this is the role of a diplomat. That's why I say I have experience when it comes to diplomacy, because the role of a diplomat is also to remind the community in how to protect their culture and how to make use of their culture. Because some people, they forgot their culture when they get out of their countries, when they get out of for example, I'm talking about Africans. Most of the Africans, they forgot their culture when they get out of Africa. When they go to Europe, they totally forgot their culture. So I was defining about diplomacy because this is one of the course I did back in Africa, and I have experience about diplomacy, and I know how a diplomat, what is the role of a diplomat in the community or in the society. So we have a lot to teach our community. We have a lot to teach our society, how they can protect, how they can make use of their culture in the right way. So let me now go to the second part, which is to define the culture itself. What do we know about the culture? Remember, I told you guys, I'm a teacher in a profession and also a journalist. Journalists, they talk too much, so bear with me, because I will try to explain a bit about these things in details, and so we can understand. What is culture? A culture can be divided into two categories. Culture is a customary belief, or social form and material traits or religious or social group. So that is the first part of a culture. It can be done into the society, it can be done in religious, everywhere. Culture is always there. That's how you see if you go to Catholic, they have their way of doing things. If you go to Protestants, they have their way of doing things. If you go to Muslims, they have their ways of doing things. So culture, it has different way of behaving. And also, culture is the way of life, or the life that we're living. Okay? Group of people, the way they live, and it has other meanings, the way people do things. So culture, it's huge, it's large. But what do I want to talk about culture in only few words? Culture is the most important thing in our society. We have to carry our culture everywhere we go, because without our culture, we will not have any meaning outside. And this message, I'm passing it mostly people whom are outside Africa. Those who found themselves in Europe, in Asia, or any other place outside Africa. This message is based to you guys, and even people who are in Africa, to still keep on making use of the culture, of our African culture. So why did I come up with this topic? Because I've realized that we Africans, we only value our cultures when we are in Africa. But when the day we leave Africa, immediately we will remove that mind of African culture. We now want to make use of the culture of other people, which is not bad, but the priority is the most important thing, which is your culture. What is your culture? What does your culture or your community or your people, your African people do? Because we Africans, we have our way of living. We are not Europeans, we are not Brazilians, we are not Americans, we are not Australians. We are Africans. Yes, you can have a citizenship of that country. That is just a citizenship. That doesn't mean you are from that country or you are from that culture. I can be a Congolese and have a citizenship of, for example, America, or for example, Australia or France. But I'm not from France. I'm from Congo. You understand? I have my culture. I have my way of living. I have the way that my parents, my grandfather used to live. And that is the way I'm supposed to live. If it was not clean, according to some other people, they used to say, African culture is really weird and all these things. Yes, that is how we are. We have to be proud of whom we are. So I cannot act as an American while I'm an African. I'm saying this because I've realized that most of our parents, especially those whom are outside Africa and in the countries like America, Europe, Canada, all these countries, parents, they ignore their culture. They ignore their culture and they start teaching or letting their children to start learning the cultures of other people. For example, we know that in Africa, when a child is growing in the house or a family household, there is a way of educating that child so that when he grows or when she grows up, she will know that my parents or my family or my community, they raised me in this way, and I have to also keep growing in this way, politely respecting the elders, obeying the rules, and all these things. All these things, it's in one packet when it comes to education in Africa. That's how we know in Africa. They raise us by saying, don't do this. If you do it, you'll be beaten. Don't say this word. If you say it, you'll be cursed. Don't insult. Don't disrespect. Don't, all these things they taught us to not do that. That's why we grew up with that kind of education. Until today, we have that mentality of African culture. I cannot go outside and start insulting someone who is elder than me, because my parents, they did not teach me that. My parents did not educate me like that. My parents, they educate me, respect someone who is elder than you, always obey people whom are bigger than you. But that's not what is happening in Europe. That's not what is happening in most of the countries outside Africa. In Europe, kids are having freedom of doing whatever they want. Kids, they can do whatever they want in the house, outside the house, in the community, everywhere they are, and they don't care. There is no respect of anyone who is elder than them to come and stop them from what they're doing, because they are having freedom of doing everything that they want. Here is where the problem comes from. And here is where I'm saying the responsibility will go back to the parents whom are supposed to be the one to teach their children how the African culture is, even if they're in Europe. We are not meant to be in Europe and live like European. Yes, they have their rules and they have their culture, they have their way of doing things. But we don't have to put our children into that system. Yes, they can respect the rules of the government. That's okay. Everyone have to respect the rules of the government. Outside home, they are in Europe. But inside home, they have to feel the environment of African culture. You have to teach your children how to behave outside. You have to teach your children how or whom to be with outside. Many kids outside in Europe, they are spoiled because their parents, they did not tell them whom they're supposed to be with, what they're supposed to do outside. When a child says, I'm going outside, for example, I'm going for dinner with my friends, in Europe, parents will just say, okay, take care of yourself. But they don't care to know whom are those friends and what are the values those friends are adding into the mind of a child. Because this one is most important thing. When your child is leaving house, as an African, you have to know where is your child going and whom is your child with. Are they in a safe place? Are they with a good friends? This is the most important, because here in Europe, a child can go outside and learn from friends outside and bring that same education inside the house. And I know in this country, or most countries in Europe, when a child misbehaves in the house, if a parent try to talk, the child will call the police for that parent. And the parents, they will end up losing the child, because there is something called, I don't know, I don't want to mention the name, but you know, people who are in Europe, they know. There's some people that comes in and they will take your child from you because you don't want to give freedom to your child. So this is the level that we don't want to reach. We African parents, I'm giving this advice for African parents whom are in Europe, whom are staying in Europe. Don't give space to your children to start forgetting their culture. Try to be teaching your children their culture every day and night. Let them know their culture. Let them know what is the kind of food the African culture or their culture used to eat, which kind of dress they used to dress, which kind of the behaviors they can behave. Don't just give them green lights to be doing everything, because it will lead to one day you parents to be in trouble with your children. It will lead to one day you parents to start losing your children, because your children will start getting access outside to go and for example, they will give them green lights to go and to rent a house, or the government will give them a house to go and stay, because you, according to their system in Europe, that you are not giving them freedom, you are giving them hard time. So for them to have freedom, they need to have their own house. The government will pay for that house. The government will be the one to take care of everything that the children will be doing in that house, but they don't care about their education. They don't care about their culture, how they would mess up there. They don't care. What they care is they want to see the children, they're having freedom. They want to see children, they're having fun. They have to see children getting what they want. but they don't want to see a child complaining about anything. Here is when you parents will be in trouble, because you did not teach your children, or you don't use to teach your children how to behave as an African, to tell them about your country, to tell them about your grandfather, how they used to behave. Today, many children in Europe, they start disrespecting their parents. A child will insult his mother and his father, and no one will say anything. Where is this coming from? Is this our culture, really? This is not our culture. In Africa, a child to insult his or her father, he will see hell on earth. Just say a weird word to a father or a mother. That son or that daughter will see sun at night because of just disrespecting his or her parents. It's not that we're saying we want to be violent to our children, no, but we have to tell our children how to behave. This is our culture. One day they will grow up, they will not remain here forever, and that's another thing. We the parents, we don't tell our children that, yes, we came to these countries in Europe because we were having difficulties in our countries. That's why we found ourselves here. But this is not your country. Your country is so and so. You have to tell them. If your country is South Sudan, you tell them your country is South Sudan. If your country is Congo, tell them your country is Congo. If your country is Nigeria, tell them your country is Nigeria. Ghana, tell them. Let your children know their real country. Some of them, you'll tell them, especially those who were born here. When you tell them like, your country is not here, your country is Africa, even the child will tell you, I don't know Africa. Where is Africa? I've never seen Africa before. What is Africa? Because you did not tell them about their country. Let your children always to learn, to know more about their countries. Because that's how most of the parents, they teach their children. Like, Africa is a place that people suffer. Africa is a place that you have too much stress. Africa is a place that people die a lot, people fight. That's what they put into their children. And when you say to your children that, I'm going to send you in Africa, a child will just know that you are sending me to hell. Because Africa is where people fight. Africa is where people have no money. Africa is where people always die. So when you say to a child, I'm sending you back to Africa, he will know that you're sending him or her to hell. So you have to remove that thinking in their mind, like Africa is a very bad place. No. Instead, start telling your children the reality. Africa is the best place to be. Africa is the best continent. Africa is the best heaven on earth. You have to let your children to know that, so that one day they will feel like, oh, we want to go and see Africa. We want to go and see our parents' country. We want to see our grandparents' country, our continent, how it looks like. It's our duty. It's our duty as parents, and it's our duty as diplomats. When I'm saying diplomat, I'm putting myself inside, because I am one of the diplomats having experience, because it's the course that I did in my master's, and I went through a lot with this course, because I've realized like many of the diplomats or embassies, they are not doing their duty of reminding the community or the society about their culture. It's very important to be organizing every year a culture day or African Culture Day. African Culture Day, it will be a day that it will help children to come and see how do Africans dress, how do Africans cook, how do Africans look. It will let them know like, oh, this is where we're coming from. We love our continent. We love our countries. But it's not fine. It's not fair enough to just let your children grow up in Europe knowing that this is our country and this is where we are born, and we are going to grow up from here and die from here. No. Parents, it's your responsibility to remind your children where is where they're coming from. Where is their basics? Where is their parents or the grandparents coming from? You have to let them know. I'm always happy to see people who take back their children children who were born in Europe, and they were taught about Africa, and then reaching a certain level of, for example, high school or university, they decide to take their children back to Africa to go and study from there. I really appreciate those parents. You're doing the great thing, because even me, I will do the same thing, because I want my children to grow up here, yes, but when they reach a certain level of education, they have to go back and study from Africa. Let them know their country. Let them test the hardness and the sweetness of their country, of their continent, so that one day, when they will also become parents, they will also teach their children, like, you know what, we are coming from this place. Yes, we've been in this country, we grew up in Europe and everything, but we went back to study in our countries, in Africa. This is the most important thing. We parents, we have a lot to do. We diplomats, we have a lot to do in the community, in the society. We teachers, we have a lot to do in the community and in the society, because it's the three roles of these three people, three categories of people, to change the way of thinking of the community. When I'm saying the community, it includes the children, those who were born outside Africa, and the children who were raised outside Africa, and those parents who came to Europe pretending to not know Africa or ignoring the culture. Those are the three categories in a community that we need to work with. We need to teach that culture is the most important thing. If you ignore your culture, it's like you're ignoring your mother. It's like you're ignoring your father. It's like you're ignoring your family. That is your culture. We cannot ignore our African culture. I cannot come to Europe and start behaving like European. This is not my country. This is European's country, but I'm just here because of the situation. But I don't have to now say, now I'm in America, I have to be like an American and start dressing like American. I start behaving like American. I start doing the things that American does. No, I have my culture. You can be having a citizenship of the country that you are in Europe, but you are not from that country. You are just from that country by papers. The papers is the one showing that you are a citizen of that country. But when it comes to reality, you are not from that country. One day, we are not wishing bad. One day things can go wrong. You can be asked to be deported back to your country. We've seen that a lot. Many people, they stayed in Europe for many years, 20, 30 years. But when they commit a very big mistake or something wrong happened to them, or they did something against the role or the rules of the country, they will be deported back to their countries. Even if you have the citizenship, they will end up knowing that, oh, you are from Kenya, you are from Congo, you are from South Sudan, you're from Nigeria, you're from Ghana. Okay, go back to your country, because they know this is not your country. And that's what you have to put in your mind. Whenever you are, or wherever you are in the world, you are outside Africa, that country is not your country. Even if you have the citizenship, even if you have 50 years in that country, and you are working in the government, you are having everything in that country, just know that you are in that country because of the papers. But the reality, you are not from that country. Your country is Africa. I'm just here to remind people that we are Africans. We are having a place that where we belong. We are not belonging to where we are now. Today I can have a citizenship of Australia, but I am not an Australian. I am from Congo. You have to go back to your country and invest in your country. Let me give an example. You are living in a house and your house is not well built, and your neighbor is also living next to you, but his or her house is well built and well decorated and everything. You are dreaming to go and stay in your neighbor's house because it's looking good, because it's so beautiful and everything, and ignore your house which is not looking good. Why not you to go to your neighbor's house and look at how the house looks like and what are the things that he put in the house, how did he buy it, how much did he buy it, and you also go and try, work hard and buy the same thing, put it in your house, let your house also look good. This is the only example I can give. We have our Africa. There's some people who are still living in Africa. There's some people who are still working in Africa. People in Europe, they have to also make use of this time that you're in Europe. Try to learn, try to go to school, try to get education, learn a lot, and then go back to your country and invest. Let your country to be developed. Also try to build your country. Don't just come in Europe and eat and sleep, wake up, you get everything from here, and then you don't give nothing